You recovered from that wild one the other night?
Yeah, that was a fun game. I don't think that's ever really happened, so that was good for us.
Yeah, what did you, as you guys process that, how does it feel to have been able to overcome that level of a haymaker and to be able to finish that one out?
I think in the moment we were a little frustrated, just kind of giving up that lead. But I mean, there's a lot of good to that game. Obviously we built a lead up until that point, and when you have like a couple of days to kind of think about it again, everything that happens in the moment isn't as bad when you kind of take a step back. So a lot of stuff we did, we were able to kind of build a good lead, and obviously, we came back down 6 with 4 minutes left after being up. Yeah, so adversity will definitely help us out in the long run. So I thought we did a good job, cleaned a couple of things up, just little stuff from that game that we thought we could, get better at, and that was it. I think. Other than that, gutsy win.
Sorry, go ahead.
Conventional wisdom, I think, would say like young teams aren't supposed to be very good on the road, and you guys have been a pretty good road team. Is there anything that stands out to you about the way you guys play on the road?
Probably our starts. It's just something we've been trying to hold ourselves accountable with all season, whether it's home or away. Obviously, it's hard to have a bad start on an away game and be successful. That's something that we're consciously mindful of. And then, you kind of got to play a little extra hard on the road just because there's a lot of other outside factors that revolve around the game. So we've been noted to that and just playing extra hard on the road and trying to, find different ways to win.
Kaysen had mentioned after the game the other night that you guys really have tight huddles when, adversity hits. Just in that huddle when you guys are down 6, 4 minutes left to go, just what's kind of the vibe? What's the conversation in those sort of huddles?
Surprisingly, there was no panic. I think everybody kind of understood what was kind of happening. They made shots, and they had kind of like a good game plan going into what we were doing. So we just kind of adjusted. Everybody's biggest talking point was stay together. K. Rich was kind of harping on that. Don't lose each other just because we're kind of in that predicament. But I think we did a good job of kind of looking at it as just being down 6. Not really worrying about the fact that we blew the lead. Just trying to chip away from that 6 points. I thought we did a good job of that.
How consistent has that sort of kind of not non-panic been for you guys over the course of really these last couple of seasons?
It's been really good. Even like from like my first year, I thought we did a really good job of that. I think that just speaks to how close we are as a group. I think everybody, for the most part, really trusts each other. So I think that makes it really easy when adversity hits for us to kind of just go out there and play and kind of stick to what we've been doing.
And Dub, I know this is a really young team, but I imagine most teams, young or old, probably would have folded in that scenario. Where do you feel this team draws that kind of wisdom in those scenarios? Maybe not always like that scenario specifically, but similar scenarios.
We have a lot of confident players on our team. I think once you're confident in a lot of stuff, I think it eliminates a lot of panic that maybe some younger teams might have. But I think we just have a lot of confident guys that, we're young, but everybody's kind of been thrown in the fire just through like the whole like rebuild process and kind of doing that whole thing. So a lot of guys have been in a lot of different scenarios already. So everybody just kind of trusts what they do in their game and trust the next man to make a play.
Cody had a big game against Pepperdine, and that's something that you've been accustomed to. How cool is it to kind of share that experience with Cody?
It's dope. I'm gonna assume you saw my Instagram post. Yeah. Actually, my CMT that like does all my flights and stuff during the summer, he recruited me to my agency now, but he went to Pepperdine, so there's always a joke in that. But it's dope to see him play. Hopefully, I get to see him play this year. But it's cool to watch him grow up and kind of go through the same thing that I was going through last year. So,
is there any big difference in his game that you've noticed compared to like where he was last year?
Oh, that's tough. I think he got stronger. He's more physical. I think that just comes with age too. Like, as you get older, you kind of figure out, how you like to play and stuff like that. But it's funny because he still like doesn't know exactly what he wants to be yet because he's so talented. So it's cool to watch him like grow up and kind of figure out like what kind of player he wants to be. So, but yeah, just probably getting stronger and more physical.
Have you looked down the schedule and compared and tried to see if there's a way to get to him?
I mean, you can probably take like a PJ. I don't have PJ money. So hopefully when we go to Denver, I might be able to, drive down there for a game. But I'm not going to force it. I feel like, sooner or later we'll probably be playing against each other or with. So who knows?
There's a lot of talk about your fashion. Obviously, you've been up in the ranks for a while now, but people are talking about like possible Reed Fitz MVP this year, overtaking Shea. You'll have to be humble with this answer. Where do you think you stack up like in the NBA as far as your
I'm
basketball?
like, a humble answer is like top 10. What I think, I'm one. Obviously, I think everybody probably thinks they're one, but I'm in like that top 5 discussion. I don't know. I just be wearing random stuff, whatever's in the closet. So
Outside of Shea, who do you have the most respect for fashion-wise in the league right now?
Jordan Clarkson is kind of up there in regards to. I'm trying to think who else. I'm gonna just say JC. JC's tough.
10 games or so, the bench has been really efficient and really productive from a scoring standpoint. I know it's probably a multitude of factors, but are there any, one or two things that stand out to you the most about either how that group's played, Kenrich being back, or maybe how you've kind of oriented some of your starters in with that group that have really helped them over the last 10 games or so?
Yeah, I mean, we're not like a bench unit type team. We're staggering a lot of starters. We're doing different guys on different nights. So it's kind of hard to separate bench and starters because they're interwoven to some degree. But I do like, you want, when you go to your bench, if you start off well, you want the bench to be able to steady that and build on the lead. Or if you start off poorly, you want the bench to be able to kind of inject some energy into the game. And these guys that we've subbed with have done both. So they've obviously done a great job of kind of raising elevating the game when they go out there. I think it speaks to the energy that they bring. Kaysen, Ijo, K. Rich, Wiggins, Jay Will, those guys are all like energy players. So certainly pleased with how they've played.
Are you a believer that the things that make you good everywhere, or there are things that can make you a better road team?
I don't know. It's just certain things. I really, it's so complex. It's really hard to identify. We just try to emphasize the same things, regardless of opponent, regardless of home road, regardless of game context. If you're on a winning streak, losing streak, we try to settle into 0-0 and just play the game in front of us. So I don't know. We don't talk about it. It's not something that we really talk about. The one thing we do talk about on the road is trying to get off to good starts. I do think to win a road game, if you can play with a lead early, that usually helps you. It's not a rule, obviously, but that is the one thing that we might hit. But otherwise, I don't know.
Is it like, I think the conventional wisdom is young teams shouldn't be good on the road, right? Theoretically, they wouldn't be better on the road. Is there anything you think that separates you from a typical young team?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that separate us from the narrative around young teams. I think one of the young team things that we are young. I think that means that we have runway. I think we have to grow through the experiences we have because we have less of them as a team. But a lot of the narratives that are built around young teams, you could apply to really all teams. There's old teams that are bad on the road. There's older teams that don't play with poise or that don't have emotional regulation or whatever. So we're more focused on trying to be, a good team, rather than a good young team or anything like that. But I do think we have an uncommon poise and maturity about us, but I would say we have that relative to all teams, not just young teams.
We've seen Kaysen go crash the glass really hard, come up with some really big boards. He had several of them the other night. Just, I know it's a matter of going. That's a part of it too. But does he have an element of timing or something that makes him so effective as one of the smaller guys out there on the floor?
I think so. He's got a great nose for the ball. He's just got really good basketball instincts. And I think sometimes when we think of basketball instincts, we think of knowing where the ball should go with passes and stuff like that. It's, people associate that with passing a lot. I think, he just has great basketball instincts as it relates to, the intangibles of the game, cutting, defensive positioning, anticipating the next rotation, nose for the ball. He's got a lot of those types of instincts, which makes him a very impactful, complete player.
How much of that do you feel like he came in with, and how much of that are you seeing him progress with, those instincts kind of happening more naturally as he gets to see more pictures and stuff like that?
They come in with a lot of them. Guys have been playing a lot of basketball before they ever get drafted. And so they their identity, their core identity as a player is already established by the time they get here, and then it's just a matter of trying to enhance that and them, growing from the experiences that they have and learning how to, express that identity in the NBA game, which takes time. But he's done a great job of that. But I think a lot of that stuff, I don't know that they're born with it, but they're definitely born into the NBA with a lot of that stuff.
The other night, after the game, Shea said, regardless of how he's being guarded, what teams are giving him offensively, he views offense and defense as two completely separate things and really tries to not let either of them bleed over to the other one. Do you feel like he's always played like that since you've been with him? Or is that something that he's been able to hone and get better at over the course of his career?
No, I think he's grown, significantly defensively. I think some of that's, I think when I say that, it seems like he didn't care, and I don't think that was the case. I think some of it's just like experience and like you learn to anticipate and you learn the pictures, so to speak. Some of it's physical, like as you grow into your body, especially him. Like Casing's coming in, Dub came in, they came in like pretty physically matured. He's a completely different physical person than he was when he first got here, and so I think those things contribute to it. And then I think he prioritizes winning and really wants to win. And if you really want to win, you value the invisible parts of the game, and defense is certainly one of them. A big one.
Do you think he's gotten better at not allowing what's going on offense to affect the way that he approaches his defensive assignments?
Yeah, he's done a great job of that. It sets a great tone for the team. That's what good teams do. You're not going to the number one variance in the NBA is going to be your shooting night to night. You don't know how you're going to shoot it, and nobody shoots it great every night. Nobody shoots it poorly every night. So that's the most erratic part of the game. And so if we can be consistent in all the parts of the game that we have more control over, we're going to be a better team. And that's what you're referring to. He does a nice job of that.
Mark, you talked earlier about just young team traits and how that carries over. But for as many teams as you've seen as a basketball enjoyer, for this young team, does it feel like it has maybe some more depth than traditional young teams?
I don't know. Again, it's hard for me to compare to other young teams. I'm not like an expert on young teams. We have depth that we have confidence in, though. And that's been built over time. I mean, we've been at this now for a few years, and the depth of the team and the experience of that depth has grown outward, with each season, to the point that now, like I told you guys the other day, I have a high degree of confidence in everybody on the team, including guys that aren't playing right now. There's guys that aren't playing, every night minutes that I would feel very comfortable putting in the game. It's more of a constraint of minutes and rotation spots than it is a lack of trust in anybody.
I feel like we talk a lot about like team leaders, emotional leaders, the actual leader of the team. Can you kind of talk about how Kaysen may be sliding into like a team equilibrium type of role?
Yeah, I've said, you guys have heard me say this before, but I believe this to my core. The leader's the person doing the right thing, and when you define leadership like that, it makes it entitled to no one and accessible to everybody. And so, Shea's an All-NBA player. He's probably one of our more tenured guys in terms of what he's accomplished. But if he's not doing the right thing in the moment, he's not leading. If I'm not doing the right thing as the head coach in the moment, I'm not leading. And a guy like Cason Wallace can be 19 games into his career, but his steady energy, his consistency, his team orientation, he leads all over the place. And so, that's, I think when you really have a environment with a lot of integrity is when everybody's bringing kind of their best and their version of leadership to the table rather than reliance on singular people.